I'm Vista, and the research question for my thesis was, how are feminine characters in science fiction depicted in potentially problematic ways? Since the thesis itself was supposed to be more professional without me-I pronouns, I will be sharing the more personal side of this query. Honestly, I love science fiction. I, as a person, find that stories taking place in realistic settings with realistic occurrences are wholly boring. I don't want to read or watch a story about some average guy going through things that could happen to anyone, even if unlikely. I want to be taken away from our reality. Fantasy is cool because it does just that, but many stories get a bit uninspired and repetitive where they could have had potential, and when they do diverge from the cliches, they get a bit convoluted. Sci-fi, on the other hand, finds itself to be more specific, following a logical, if only explained away with buzzwords, path of storytelling. Some stories have truly scientific theories and knowledge woven into them, creating a world that could be plausible from our standpoint and demonstrating a writer's understanding and study of the subject, in turn being taken more seriously. Others use science and scientific sounding words to explain the entirely wacky occurrences that take place in the story. In this type of story, one could use their quantum ray, biomatter, whatever the heck, centrifugal space gun to turn people into microwaves by using the buttered popcorn hypothesis, and it would totally work. I find both sides of the genre absolutely wonderful. Points. Some of my favorite subgenres would be retrofuturism, superheroes, and speculative biology. For context, retrofuturism may be an unfamiliar term, but it is an enormous part of science fiction. Pretty much every story depicting a futuristic setting could fall into the category, especially those made over 15 years ago. I'm sure the terms steampunk and cyberpunk may ring a bell, but it also includes subgenres such as raypunk, dieselpunk, and adapunk. Really, retrofuturism is taking the predictions of the future from the past. And speculative biology, or speculative evolution, can be described with the word aliens. Put simply, it uses known scientific material of biology, ecosystems, and niches to predict how life forms would evolve to survive in differing circumstances to our own evolutionary history. While alien depictions do usually fall into this subgenre, even if the creator didn't factor any evolutionary processes into said depiction, other ideas, such as imagining a change in Earth life's evolutionary past that causes the path of evolution different to our present, hypothetically putting an existing organism into a new environment to see how it evolves, and predicting Earth life's evolutionary future are also parts of the speculative evolution. I love these genres, whether analytical or absolute buzzwordy nonsense. In short, I believe sci-fi is really cool, but even within my favorites, I know some trends. A blight that I cannot make sense of. As an artist with a great interest in character design, robots I find are quite enjoyable to draw. I don't really care about the engineering side of robots when designing them. I mostly think they're cool because I can have fun with the application of unique shape language. I also find the concept of robots and how they may just shape the human feature quite interesting. Now take these cool and interesting and potentially powerful beings and absolutely undermine that concept in exchange for boobs. Robots with boobs, breasts, mammaries, bosom, and a whole lot more words that I do not hold in my vocabulary. Now why would a robot require defined mammaries in their physical design? A question that I've asked myself and others too many times. The two most common arguments that others have given include familiarity with humans and sex appeal. Both, I argue, are stupid. Even if they're true, I still believe them to be pretty dumb and naive. The uncanny valley is indeed a thing. Attempting to make something that isn't human look more human can lead to a visual that brings feelings of unease and discomfort. The bar to make a relatable looking character is so insanely low. The act of giving a character a humanoid body plan, even a simplified version, will make them feel familiar. Slap a clothing item or an entire outfit on that robot, and it brings more personality to the design. Maybe if the robot was created to care for and feed babies, boobs may be a desired component, but I highly doubt these characters I so often see are supposed to be mother bots, with a rare few exceptions. There's absolutely no other practical reason that would warrant mammaries. Nope, none at all. Sex robots? Sorry, what was I saying? Besides, think about the character. Why would something that doesn't need breasts and doesn't have uncontrollable genetic code that enables the useless protrusions to grow in even want them? As an individual with breasts, I certainly don't want them, nor will I ever need them. They're just extra weight that take up space and limit my aerodynamics or something, I don't know. And then boobs, are also quite sexualized. Now I focused on robots here because they aren't human. They don't need the same traits as humans, even to be good characters. They're one of the two subjects that are most atrociously depicted in science fiction. Depicted to be a certain way that doesn't make sense nor matter to their character. I see this strange obsession with sexualizing the bodies of feminine characters. This isn't just isolated to robots, but extraterrestrial humanoids and, of course, human women as well. In science fiction specifically, there are tropes in the way female characters are designed. In superhero comic books, there are the skin-tight bodysuits, shiny leather, and boob socks. In sci-fi pulp illustrations, there are the skin-tight bodysuits, astronaut bikinis, and spacesuit boob windows. And in quite a few subgenres of retrofuturism, there are the skin-tight bodysuits revealing alternative fashion and corsets on top of outerwear. Sci-fi has a thing for wearing underwear on the outside of one's outfit. Superheroes do it, steampunk doesn't. When it comes to comic books, these designs were most prominent during the 90s. And I can't talk about 90s comic book art without referencing Rob Liefeld. His women had very big and shiny, and a lot of them were, and their waists were super thin, and their legs were super long, and why were their faces so weird? His art has definitely improved since then, but his character art still includes most of those features. I mention him because he was very popular at the time. The 90s wanted flashy, nonsensical edginess, and he absolutely provided flashy, nonsensical edginess. I like a bit of flashy, nonsensical edginess, but this is sort of edgy that I don't like. This sexualization of characters, women, can really ruin a story. Even if the story is amazing, I still have to deduct points and find a significant decline in my own interest when these characters are in a scene. It is icky, and I'm not even getting into how these characters are often written. Only mention that the archetypes for one-dimensional women that I so often see are flirty, soft, and vaguely strong. These characters feel like they are actual characters and more props. I would never say that there is a wrong way to design a character or make art, unless the piece has some intention of being bigoted. That's the fun of art. It can be literally anything. There are no real rules. Despite this, I can still hold my own opinion and say these characters are bad. I would never look down on a real person who would be represented by these characters, but it almost feels wrong for another to impose these traits on a creation, because usually these types of characters are obviously made to be a sort of fan service or insertion of the creator's desires, and at least somewhat sexist representation. They are made to be items, vehicles of sexuality, conflict, romance, and/or a desired representation. They have no way of consenting to the way they dress or act because they are just figments and not actual people. Just like how a robot cannot truly express a gender identity because they have no sentient identity. A large reason for these design choices to be so prevalent is simply that sex sells. I know I said this reasoning is utterly stupid, majorly because I myself have absolutely no interest in sex, but it is just a plain fact. Sexuality draws the eye and enables interest from the common target audience of adolescent boys, a group of individuals in the process of discovering their own sexualities, with a significant portion being attracted to women. Even if I personally do not fully understand the appeal, it's right there. These choices are successful, but I'm not saying that they're good. These representations of feminine characters can be problematic, even if a few real-life individuals can identify with them. By creating a representation of a group that is so one-dimensional and treated only as an object of service, it perpetuates problematic views of that group. While I do love science fiction, this trend is so annoyingly present within the great deal of its stories. These tropes obviously occur in other genres as well, but because such a huge theme as science fiction is progress, these stories that trade self-awareness for degrading fantasy feel more prevalent and abhorrent than the other speculative fiction genres that I've seen become more progressive at a faster pace.
All right, thank you very much, Vista.